Let me ask you this. Why do most people fail at creating habits that stick? Well, there could be plenty of factors, but one major reason is they are not consistent with them. They might achieve their habit goal one day, but then the next day something comes up and they skip doing the habit altogether. But the point of any habit is to make it a habit in the first place. This means doing it every single day without fail. So how can we do that? How can we become consistent with our habits so they actually stick? The solution is to make our habits elastic. This is Mike. Every single year he sets his New Year's resolutions, which are playing the piano every day for 1 hour, exercising by going to the gym 5 times per week, reading 25 pages of a book every night. Those are really good goals to strive for, but every single year Mike fails to establish them as habits. He keeps it up for a little while, but usually 2 months in his habits fall apart. And it's obvious why. While his goals are achievable, they don't offer much room for maneuver and they are difficult to keep up at this intensity. Whenever Mike got home from work exhausted, he didn't feel like practicing the piano for 1 hour. So he didn't practice at all. Going to the gym also felt too difficult, so he skipped it that day. And while he enjoyed reading every night, he sometimes didn't read anything because he didn't have the time to read the full 25 pages, especially if he was reading a more difficult or technical book. Every single time Mike was having a tough day, he wasn't able to even start his habits, and because he wasn't able to be consistent, his habits fell apart. However, this year, Mike took a different approach to his habits, a more elastic one. First, he gave himself more variety. Going to the gym was his original exercise goal, but now he also came up with 2 more exercise options, going for a bike ride and jumping rope at home. This gave Mike more opportunities to be consistent with his exercise. Second, he gave each of those options 3 difficulties: easy, medium, and hard, or as he liked to call them, mini, plus, and elite. For easy or mini habit, he had to ride his bike for 3 minutes or jump rope just 10 times. That is all. But if he wanted his habit to count as medium or plus, he had to ride his bike for 15 minutes or do 100 rope jumps. And finally, for the habit to count as hard or elite, he had to ride his bike for half an hour or jump rope 500 times. Now, whenever Mike went to the gym, that automatically counted as a medium completion. That's because whenever he showed up there, he always finished his weightlifting workout. For that reason, he doesn't have a mini version if he goes to the gym. But if he wanted to reach his elite completion, he had to finish his gym workout along with medium bike ride or medium rope jumps. If Mike managed to complete any of those options, he achieved his exercise habit for the day. Another important thing that Mike did was he set up a big calendar in his room so he could track all of his habits. Whenever he completed the habit for the day, he put a color sticker on it. For his mini habit, he put a green sticker on. For his plus habit, he put a blue sticker. And for finishing his elite habit, he put on a red sticker. Also, the calendar was strategically located in a visible place and it served as a reminder. This way, Mike would never forget to complete the habits like he sometimes did with his previous systems. The calendar motivated Mike to keep on going because he didn't want to break the streak he was creating. To Mike, it didn't matter which option or difficulty he achieved that day. All that mattered to him was that he was consistent with his habits and he never missed a day. This system allowed Mike to not fail his New Year's resolutions. His previous systems used to force him to go to the gym, but Mike often skipped it altogether if he had a tough day. However, now when he comes home from work exhausted and not feeling like exercising, Mike does the mini version of a habit because it's so simple and easy to do. I mean, 10 rope jumps. That's like nothing. However, the habit is maintained, which is the important part. But perhaps the next day, Mike comes home slightly more energized. So he might decide to do his medium, aka plus version of a bike ride, which is 15 minutes. However, since the weather is nice and he's enjoying himself, he extends his ride. He rides around for almost 1 hour, which is more than enough for an elite completion. Mike didn't intend to do 1 hour at first. His medium difficulty is 15 minutes after all. But once he started, he found it easy to keep on going. Starting something is often the biggest problem we have. But having a mini or a plus version of a habit makes starting more manageable since it's not as intimidating. You're less likely to start if you know you have a full hour of exercise ahead of you, but knowing you only have to work out for 15 minutes doesn't sound so bad. And once you start, it's so much easier to keep on going since you're already doing the thing. Mike's previous habit system had him do the exact same amount of exercise on busy days as on wide open days. But elastic habits give Mike the freedom to do less on a tough day and more on a good day. And this is precisely what he needs to match the flow of his life. Make no mistake, everyone wants to be super productive every single day. But if you think only elite habits are acceptable, then you're in for a negative surprise. Life is dynamic and not static. You might get sick, you could come home tired, you might have a deadline to catch and have no time to spare. Would you still be able to stick to the habit in that situation? Most people just skip it altogether and do nothing instead. Mike was no different. But it's that exact thinking that we should give our 100% all the time that keeps people from forming habits that stick. For that reason, it's way better to have imperfect but consistent habits rather than perfect habits you do every now and then. This is why you should make your habits more flexible or elastic. When life gets in the way, you will still be able to do the easy mini version because it's not as intimidating. And like I said, after starting, it's much easier to keep on going for a little longer. But more importantly, you will always do something which is much better than doing nothing. Now, on a different day, when you feel motivated and energized, you can do the plus or even the elite difficulty. It's the greatest feeling when you complete that difficult task. But if you force yourself to go for outrageously ambitious goals all the time, it can burn you out and keep you from forming good lifelong habits. You don't want to despise your habits now, do you? This is why you need all three difficulties. Each person responds uniquely to different difficulties, that's why how you size your goals should be completely up to you. However, your mini goal needs to be something you can do every single day without exception. This is absolutely crucial. You should be able to complete the habit on the worst day of your life. If you miss any days, it means your mini goals are too big and too difficult. You need to make them even smaller. This will solve your consistency problem and keep you going. So be like Mike and keep your mini goals mini. That means playing one song on the piano, reading one page of a book, or doing 10 rope jumps. Of course, these were the goals that Mike set up for himself. You should adjust your habits to your own needs. But as Mike progressed over time, he readjusted his targets. For example, he decided that 10 rope jumps were too easy for him, so he bumped it up to 25. He could do that because he's in control of the system, not the other way around. Elastic habits are meant to be done every day. How and when you do them each day is flexible and up to you, but they must be done. I know that every day sounds terrifying, but it's not once you realize that you can complete the mini version in less than 1 minute. Intimidation gone, streak maintained. And you shouldn't feel bad if you're only able to complete the mini version. You're still making progress every single day after all. All progress is success, because success is made out of small bits of progress. Those who are able to move forward every day, even if it's just a few inches, are the ones that change their lives. Elastic habits will allow you to be that person. Have you ever come across contradicting advice? You might have read a book by someone you admire and they say that if you want similar results, you should do X. At first it makes a ton of sense and it feels like a whole new world has opened in front of you. However, sometime later you come across another piece of advice by someone else in a similar position. But the advice is completely opposite to the previous advice you received. They say that you should avoid X and do Y instead. So now you have two different people, both at a level you want to achieve, telling you different things. And it might confuse you as to why that is. For example, let's take a look at this contradicting advice. If you want to succeed, you have to work more and outwork everyone. But then you also have advice that goes something like this. Work less, but work smart. What do you do? Do you work over 60 hours per week to beat your competition? Or do you work less and only focus on the most important part of your work? Both pieces of information can be useful. However, it depends on what path you're taking and what stage of life you're at. If I tell someone, "Oh, don't work so hard, take a break," but that person is homeless, then it's bad advice. Instead, he would benefit from trying to find more work. However, telling someone who's working himself to the ground to rest a little, that's good advice. He shouldn't take on additional work and would benefit from taking a break. Even in my videos where I share different ideas, some of them won't apply to you. For example, let's say there are two different people watching one of my videos. One of them is Mike, the other is Jane. Mike is an introverted guy. He likes to spend his time alone, so he rarely goes out. Whenever he gets an invite to a social event, he declines it because of his social anxiety. Because of that, Mike often feels lonely since he barely has any friends. However, Jane is an extroverted girl. She loves being around people and is often the life of the party. Whenever she gets invited somewhere, she always accepts the invite. This results into Jane not prioritizing her time and being dragged around by other people. Now, in the video both of them are watching, I give this advice. You should learn to say no to unimportant requests more often. Is the advice I gave good? Yes and no. For Jane, this is good advice. She already has a lot of friends, but she doesn't have enough time to spend on other things which are important to her. However, for Mike, this is bad advice. He needs to learn to say yes to more social opportunities instead of no. He wants to have friends and not feel lonely after all. If I did a 180-degree turn and in the video talked about how you should say yes more often, the results would be similar. Just in this case, Mike would benefit from the advice, Jane would not. Two people can hear the same idea, but it would resonate with one person while it might not make sense to the other. That's why advice and ideas tend to contradict. We're all unique and we're in different stages of life. And different people require different solutions. So we need to acknowledge that there isn't one-size-fits-all advice out there. Most advice is highly generalized and is not individualistic after all. That is why it's up to you to identify what you can use and what you cannot. Then apply whatever advice you find useful to your current situation. If it doesn't relate to you, you don't have to use it and feel free to dismiss it. But you might find that later in life, that same advice that you used to find useless is now useful to you. If we look back at Mike, he found the advice to say no pointless. So he dismissed it and instead he started saying yes to opportunities where he could be social and meet new people. However, over the years, Mike built his social circle and made more than enough friends. Soon he found himself stretched to thin. Saying yes to most social opportunities started to take away his time and energy from his business, which was now his top priority. Suddenly he found the advice to say no to requests very useful. It's good to hear different advice as it can offer a different perspective, one that you didn't consider at first. Not every idea will apply to you in the moment, but it could in the future. That's why you shouldn't dismiss it completely. But once a certain idea or advice has served its purpose, let it go. If it doesn't work for you anymore, don't use it. Ideas are like tools. You use them when they're useful to you. Do you use a hammer when your situation calls for a screwdriver? No, of course not. You use a screwdriver. But just because using a screwdriver has worked for you at one point, it doesn't mean it's going to be the only tool you ever use. There might come a point in your life where using it won't get you the results you want, and it might be better to use a hammer. Once a tool has served its purpose, you put it away and reach for a different one. Same goes for advice and ideas. Remember, what got you here won't necessarily get you there. You need to let go of the advice when it stops applying to you, or you might stagnate. On your journey through life, you'll definitely come across contradicting advice on how to approach things. But you must understand that there isn't a straightforward answer to dealing with challenges. There is more than one way to do things after all. Even if two ideas contradict each other, both can be useful, just to different people in different situations. So look at your own set of circumstances and see where you can apply the advice. If it doesn't fit in your current situation, you don't have to use it. But stay open to new information and different perspectives. You never know when an idea could come in handy. Thanks for watching. Has this ever happened to you? One day life seems to be going great and everything seems to be progressing well. But the next day you wake up with no motivation whatsoever and you suddenly feel stuck. Just going through your daily routine is a struggle and it feels like a chore. And to make matters worse, you beat yourself up for not being as productive as you'd like to be. What happened is you've entered a mental rut. It's basically a state of mind where you feel stuck, purposeless, and you're unable to motivate yourself. And doing anything that day can be difficult. Days like these will come unexpectedly, seemingly out of nowhere, and can last for days or even weeks. However, if you've been having these symptoms for months or even years now, then you're probably not just in a rut, but you might be experiencing a form of depression. The tips in this video will help you with that. However, if the symptoms persist, you might want to talk to your doctor. Now, there could be plenty of reasons for a rut, but often it happens to the most ambitious people. Because they have set high expectations for themselves, they tend to work too hard for too long. If you're someone who has recently been crushing it and you found yourself in a rut, then this might be your body's way of telling you that you need to take a break. Taking a day off might seem like a waste of time and you might feel like you don't deserve it. But in reality, relaxing a little will allow you to sustain your productivity for much longer. If all you do is work and you don't let yourself take a break, then you're on your way to burnout. So allow yourself to take it easy once in a while. But most importantly, don't beat yourself up when you do. Often someone who is taking it easy is torturing himself mentally for not meeting his own expectations. And like a negative loop, this drains his motivation even more because he's taking a break but he thinks he should be working. Just like a lot of other people, I'm guilty of this myself. I tend to get thoughts like, oh, I should be working right now, I could be doing this or that, etc. However, we need to understand that we're only human and we have a limit. We're not machines that can keep on going day and night. One thing that has helped me personally to stop torturing myself is giving my mind a logical reason for a break. Whenever I get those thoughts telling me I should be working even when I really shouldn't, I simply tell myself, resting will allow me to be more productive in the future. For that reason, taking a break is the productive thing to do. I basically give my mind a valid reason to relax. And often I'm able to return the next day with recharged batteries and a lot more motivation. Another possible reason for a rut is not taking care of your physical health. In today's society, a lot of people are stuck sitting at their desks, which often results into being inactive all day. The remedy for this is exercise, of course, or any form of physical activity. Most people, when they hear the word exercise, first think of losing weight, but exercise actually has another effect. It makes our brain function at its best. It's already well known that exercise increases levels of serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine. All are important neurotransmitters that affect thoughts and emotions. Because of that, exercise has a profound impact on mental health, and even doctors prescribe exercise as a treatment for depression. So if you haven't started an exercise regime yet, I highly suggest you do, as it can prevent any future depressive states. But if you're in a rut as we speak, then you probably don't feel like exercising at all. If that's the case, you could apply the 2-minute rule to it. Tell yourself you're going to go for a short 2-minute walk outside. When those 2 minutes are up, you can go back inside and be done with it. The point is to get yourself up and moving. Usually when the 2 minutes are up, you'll be able to continue for longer. But even if you don't continue, 2 minutes of movement are better than nothing. Of course, we mustn't forget about sleep and diet, as they are also a part of our physical health. There's a reason why the gut has been called the second brain. 90% of serotonin is made in the gut. And if you don't know, serotonin is considered a mood stabilizer as it has a huge impact on our emotions. If you keep eating junk food, the gut's microbiota will become unbalanced and your serotonin production will get messed up. So it's wise to stay away from foods that are obviously suboptimal, like fried fast food, candy bars, white bread, ice cream. Anything with added sugar basically. Instead, I suggest you try to create a balanced diet that consists of plenty of vegetables, proteins, and healthy fats. But let's not forget about drinks. Alcohol, energy drinks, and sodas are also harming your gut. Besides tons of added sugar, they tend to have artificial dyes and other harmful ingredients. Plus, they have zero nutritional value and are full of empty calories. So replace those suboptimal choices with plain water or tea. And make sure to hydrate regularly throughout the day, as being dehydrated often leads to mental fatigue. Sleep also plays an extremely important factor in our mental health. If you've been recently sleeping less than the recommended 7 to 9 hours per night, this could be another reason for a rut. Getting insufficient sleep has been linked to many mental problems such as anxiety, depression, and ADHD. Often fixing your sleep will fix your mental state. I have made plenty of videos about sleep and how to improve it, that's why I won't be talking about it here. There's a link to sleep videos down in the description. As I mentioned before, you should go outside for a walk, however not just to get physical movement, but to get a change of scenery. Going outside is something that can cause a massive shift in your mental state, especially if you surround yourself with nature. Humans are animals. I know this sounds weird, but we need to move around in the landscape to feel good. If you've ever seen an animal in the zoo, you know they don't look too happy. In fact, they look bored and sluggish. Why would humans be any different? If you're usually stuck in your house or cubicle all day, you need to get outside every once in a while. You can't just expect to be happy if you're stuck in a box all day. You need sunshine, fresh air, and nature. Specifically, regularly spending time in nature has been associated with decreased depression, lowered stress, and increased mental well-being. But even if you live in a big city, just changing your location and your scenery can help a lot. For example, whenever I feel stuck, I go for a walk around the block. This small environmental shift already helps me feel better. Another thing that might be causing a rut is having the same routine for far too long. If every single day is the same, it's hard to be excited or motivated. You don't really have anything to look forward to because you already know what to expect. If that's the case, then it might be time to spice up your routine. It doesn't have to be a drastic change. You can try something as simple as taking a different route to work, ordering something new at a restaurant, or switching up your exercise routine. Just do something differently. You could even try picking up a new hobby, something you've always wanted to do but never really got around to it. This will give you something to look forward to in your day. For example, going to a martial arts class, maybe learning how to code your own software, or learning to play an instrument. Just don't pick a trumpet or your neighbors will dislike you. Yeah, I'm talking to you, neighbor. But if you really want to have a solid reason to get out of your bed in the morning, then you need to set new goals. If you don't have any goals, you don't have any direction and you're basically purposeless. That's why I suggest you take out a piece of paper and write down some of your goals. And make sure to make a plan on how you'll achieve them. For example, I didn't start running seriously until I made it my goal to run a marathon. I always had this idea in the back of my mind that I should go for a run whenever I could. But that rarely happened because I didn't have a reason to do so. However, once I made finishing a marathon my goal, my running had a purpose. I had a reason to tie my shoes and go for multiple runs per week. Before, there really was no real reason for me to run, it was merely wishful thinking. So set some daily, monthly, or even yearly goals. This will give you motivation and fuel to get up in the morning as you'll have something to aim for. Now, when you're returning back to your work, studying, or whatever you usually do, it's important to start small so that you don't get overwhelmed. Imagine you're a weightlifter who just came back to the gym and is recovering from an injury. You don't want to load up 300 pounds on your bench press. Just because you could lift that weight before the injury, it doesn't mean you can lift it now. You need to start small and build up again. If you try lifting the same weight, you'll just injure yourself more. It's the same with productivity. When you're recovering from a rut, you don't want to suddenly jump to 10-hour workdays. Instead, start slow and just like an injured weightlifter, build your productivity up. Do 15 minutes, then 30 minutes, just to get a feel for how long you're currently able to work on your desired activity. If you have complete resistance towards your work, you can use the 2-minute rule to gain some of your momentum back. At the end of the day, you are not alone. Everyone goes through a difficult time sooner or later. Even if you feel stuck right now, and even if you feel like this is how your mood will be from now on, it won't last forever. Mental ruts are temporary, and this too shall pass. Our moods are in constant ebb and flow. It's unrealistic to feel amazing all the time. Just like Bob Ross would say, you gotta have a little sadness once in a while so you know when the good times come. You're just waiting for the good times right now.